I'm Dara Star Tucker, and these are the women who changed music. So it's 1979, and the Carpenters were nearing the end of a very successful decade where their particular brand of lush, comforting pop had dominated AM radio for many years. But by this point, the well was beginning to run dry. The world was ready for a new sound. Add to that the fact that Richard Carpenter, the group's arranger and musical director, was forced to come off the road in 1978 to deal with a pretty devastating addiction to Quaaludes. But Karen was ready to keep making music, so she hired producer Phil Ramone to spearhead a solo album to launch a new phase of her career. She camped out at his house in Connecticut for 7 months, meeting with writers and musicians to craft a project to create a new sound for a new decade. One of those writers was a British guy named Rod Temperton. He had a couple of songs that he had written before he arrived that he wanted her to consider. Karen gave them a listen, but decided they were just a little too raw for her voice and image. Rod was disappointed, but he went on to write 3 more songs especially for her. He hung on to those songs that she rejected, and when producer Quincy Jones called on him to do some writing for a solo project for an artist named Michael Jackson, he pitched the songs again. Quincy flipped over them, and they both made the final cut of Michael's album. As gorgeous as Karen Carpenter's voice is, something tells me that Rock With You and Off the Wall just wouldn't have sounded quite the same if Rod Temperton had gotten his original wish. Karen's solo album was clearly pushing for a sexier, more grown-up image with tracks like Making Love in the Afternoon, Remember When Lovin' Took All Night, My Body Keeps Changing My Mind, and Make Believe It's Your First Time. Ultimately, Karen's label A&M Records decided that her solo album just wasn't good enough to be released. And if you listen to a few tracks from it, it kind of makes sense that Carpenter's magic is not quite there, although Richard Carpenter has expressed regret in retrospect for being one of the voices to stymie the project. The Carpenters spent $500,000 of their own money on this failed project. The day before Karen died, she called producer Phil Ramone and said, "I still love our effing record." Karen Carpenter's solo album ended up being released in 1996, 13 years after her untimely death.